beat you here.
Yeah, so do the
There we go.
the retwitterings.
The retwitterings.
Yeah. On the Twitter.
Yeah, so hopefully I'll when did I that's funny. Sometimes I see things like here's something on Minds from oh my god. 21 weeks ago I got a like on something I posted for Minds and I'm like I'm kind of embarrassed by that. I'm gonna delete that.
Only kind of embarrassed?
But did you see what I got a like on?
No, but I'm asking because you're only kind of embarrassed.
I'm only kind of embarrassed by it. Yeah. It just wasn't. It wasn't anything that I care if anyone sees. It was more like it was just not that funny.
Oh, okay.
It was something where I was trying to be funny, and it just wasn't really that funny in retrospect. So.
See, the only thing that ever has embarrassed me in my entire life is the behavior my mom has in stores. Because she can't act like a decent human being. But nothing I've ever done am I embarrassed by. Now, if I insult myself, like, oh man, what I did just there is insulting to my own dignity. Which I guess is kind of a form of embarrassment, but I don't see it the same way. Then I might delete it. But
no, I just sometimes I appreciate people seeing old. Well, I mean, obviously I don't appreciate people like going through old tweets and stuff and like trying to dig up dirt or something. But like, when somebody finds an old tweet or something of mine from literally years ago and likes or retweets it or something, I guess I'm flattered. But a lot of times I'll see it and I'm like, that's a little bit cringy. Yeah, like I know what I was getting at, but in retrospect, it wasn't that. It's usually something funny. It's usually just something not that funny, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna delete that.
Well, it's like a regular that we have popping in here all the time, right? Is Rebellious, and I remember what it was like to be a teenager. I go back and I look at my Facebook posts from that age, and I'm just like, just all the time, just shouting out like, I'm bored. And honestly, reflecting too, I wasn't bored. Because I can entertain myself at any time. Mm-hmm. It was just my stupid way of telling people I'm socially deprived. I need human interaction.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cringe to look back, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, that was me.
Here's a question for you. Do you know of a service or any way to delete all your old tweets? Like, I'd like to delete everything older than a year, probably.
I'm sure there is one. I don't know one off the top of my head.
I honestly can't. I've searched, and it's not that hard. It's not that easy to find.
Yeah, because the only thing I know of is, like, you can purge literally everything, but that would also involve recent things, too. I don't know of anything that's, like, time-based or anything like that.
It'll... Like, there are ones that will work, like, from a certain point going forward. But, like, you can say, well, I mean, there's, like, free services out there, like APIs and stuff, that will check every once in a while and delete anything older than, like, say, 6 months. But it'll go older than 6 months, but newer than, like, a year. It'll only do chunks of 6 months. Yeah. And I'm like, that's missing the whole point. I want to delete all the old stuff, and it's hard to find. There are some that you have to pay for.
Start over, just
yeah. And it's not anything that there's nothing in there that would be bad particularly. Maybe a few embarrassing things where it's like that's not as funny as I thought it was at the time. But it's more just psychos going back, taking things out of context from 5 or 10 years ago. Because I've been on Twitter since 2009.
Everything I said out of context. You know why? Most of the stuff I say would be confusing to you even in context, so I don't give a shit anyway.
Yeah. Well, obviously I haven't really cared enough The last time I like went looking for a service like that was like a year ago. Just probably in response to somebody doing that. But
yeah. Plus, like, a lot of my oldest tweets, you don't even get to see the whole thing. Because I used to, well, I'm still not active on Twitter, but I used to basically never go on Twitter at all. And I would just be using, like, if this, then that. And it'd be forwarding all my Facebook posts. So it would have to cut off the tweet at whatever point to actually put the link to the Facebook post there.
Yeah, and I used to use Buffer a lot more, which allows you to schedule things.
Yeah.
And you could schedule a post that would go on everything, but like if it was really long, it would be fine on Facebook, but it would cut it off on Twitter. So, yeah, I don't think I have much, frankly. From 2009 up to like 2016, I probably have like 100 tweets in that whole time span. And I should probably get back to that. Doing like 10 tweets a year.
10 tweets a year, yeah.
One a month. 12 a year would be fine.
I think almost all of my tweets, though, that I've actively made are just self-promotion. Like, that's all I really use it for. Yeah. Or if I have, like, a really weird idea, I have to shout it out into the void. But anyway, welcome to the Vomitorium Weekday show for the 12th of July, 2021. As always, I am your host, The Metal, and joining me is my co-host, Marsupial Gamer. How you doing today?
Great. I got family in town, so if you hear children in the background, I don't know if you will or not, but it's not my children, it's my sister's children.
It'd be so funny if like you were just so zoned in to the conversation and all of a sudden we just saw like kids running around behind you and you didn't even notice that they walked in.
Yeah. No, I'd see them out of the corner of my eye, but I might not hear them if they're like yelling in the hall because I had the noise canceling headphones. So.
It'd be funny if your chroma cam was still working and that happened and all of a sudden we just see like kids out of scale just like pop into existence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Gotta figure something out. I guess if I push this bed back, I could use the green screen, but I've been too lazy.
Well, so, you know,
we'll see.
Laziness is the killer of everything.
Yeah, it's not that important, so I just haven't cared enough to deal with it. Follow up to the story that you thought we were talking about.
Yeah, let's get some
what's that?
Some auction related news going on. What we got? What we got?
Oh, did we oh, there we go. We're back.
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, so we talked before about the original Legend of Zelda in the original box sold at auction for $870,000, I think, last week. Well, that world record didn't last long. The Super Mario 64 original shrink wrapped in the box that you were talking about finally sold. I guess it must have been at auction for like a period of a few days, and that sold for $1.5 million.
Yeah. And like I was saying too, I think that is probably actually a rarer thing than the other one because there were plenty of copies of Zelda that went out there. How many are still in the box? I mean, that's probably almost one of a kind, but there are very few copies of Mario that were circulating that weren't part of the bundle that came with the 64. Most people didn't get it in that form.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Well, no, wait a minute though. Well, yeah, I guess you're right. The one I got with my original Nintendo 64, I think it was in a box, but I doubt it was like shrink wrapped and stuff.
No, it wasn't.
I think they put it in the box. Yeah. So it probably wouldn't have been worth as much as this one. It's funny that something that's just never been opened is valuable because of that.
Yeah, like I've been to, and these are a little easier to come by too because these games had tons and tons of copies of them sold in just the only format it was sold. But I'll go to like Retropalooza, which is a kind of like a video game resale convention around here for retro games, and I'll see like Final Fantasy 2, which is actually 4, but you know, for us it was Final Fantasy 2 in the box, not shrink wrapped or anything, but it'll be still in the original box, and that thing will be worth like $400 right there at the convention.
Yeah. Which is fine and dandy for all those retro games, but annoying as hell when you can't get a brand new game in the box.
Yeah.
Because of stupid scalpers.
Or, you know, some games outside of, say, Limited Run, who is Limited Run Games trying to solve this problem for you, some games just don't even come with the ability to be in a box because they're just digital only.
Yeah, well, speaking of which, I noticed that Metroid Dread, the whatever it's called, collector's edition, is available on Amazon, but sold out.
Yeah.
Immediately sold out. I don't know when it went available. I'd have to look it up again, but it wasn't the last time I checked, and then I noticed it like yesterday. Oh, this is available, but it's sold out. So
yeah. Well, I think this is one of the things I like about limited run games. I have not seen a problem with people scalping any of the pre-orders and stuff with that, and I think it's because they mostly deal with niche franchises and stuff like that. Like every game there, because it's digital only, it's something that it's got such a small audience that your ability to resale it would be limited, and there'd be no point in scalping in the first place.
Yeah,
already
exactly.
Expensive as fuck, though. It's like this game, at most $20 digital. It's like, yeah, but you know, we're doing a custom print run and everything. You're gonna be paying anywhere between $30 to $60 for the whole like case and everything. It's like, okay, I really want it physical. I'll do it.
Yeah. So yeah, the problem is it doesn't. Okay, date first available. It says, oh wow. It's June 14th, so maybe it went available like right around the time it was announced. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't remember seeing it, but it's not there now.
It's not a game, like, I wasn't going to go and pre-order it or anything. It's not a game I'm really interested in, like, needing a special collection for or anything. If I can only get it digitally, I'm perfectly fine with getting that game digitally.
Yeah. Well, I want the collector's edition, damn it, but I am not going to pay ludicrous prices. In fact, it doesn't even have a price on it. I'm not going to pay $200 for it or whatever. I'll pay the MSRP. Thank you very much.
Then I think I'm in the position that I'm buying more and more digital games, because much like you, it's like I don't really have a place to put all of these things. You know, we're in very similar circumstances there. It's like, where am I gonna put them all? I mean, I could put the games in my case. That's no problem because the games are tiny. But like, where am I gonna put all of these boxes? That's the real question.
Yeah, what did I even do?
Shove them in a drawer or something until my drawer gets too full.
Yeah, like I bought whatever it was, Final Fantasy 10 and 12, I guess, when they were on sale on Amazon.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what I did with the boxes. Probably in a drawer somewhere.
And I prefer physical games because, you know, one day these shops, apparently, I don't know, the 3DS shop is still running, even though they said they were going to shut it down. But one day these shops are going to stop running. And if I don't have all my games downloaded and patched or whatever, I'm not going to be able to anyway. But
yeah,
at the same time, it's like, but I can fit all of them onto one little SD card.
Yep. I found out recently that my girlfriend, Peach, had like the original, I don't know if it was 32 or 64 gig. I think it might have been 32 gig card that came with her Switch.
Yeah.
She still had in there. And because she was talking about, oh, it would be nice to have more storage with the new one. And I was like, what do you mean more? Like, how much do you have? She's like, oh, I think I have the original 32. I'm like, what?
It costs like nothing. Just get a bigger SD card.
I know. I sent her, I just bought one for her. I just sent her like a 512. It was like nothing. I was like, okay, here. Why didn't you tell me? She was like, oh yeah, I always have to delete old games and I hate that and I don't want to re-download. I'm like, why didn't you tell me?
Yeah, like I only have a 256, but like Switch games aren't that big. Everything I own, I have installed right now.
Me too. So I just sent her a 512 and I was like, go to town. Download everything you got. I was like, well, you could have told me that like 6 months ago. I would have gotten you a new one. Oh well. She doesn't, she doesn't ask for things.
Yeah.
Even when she needs them, she's one of those people who doesn't want to impose or ask for things.
No, I'm the same way. It's like if I can't solve my own problem, I normally don't like ask anybody, and eventually somebody's like, "How long you've had this problem now?" 4 years, and then they'll be like, "Okay, I'm just doing it."
Yeah. So anyway, she was grateful for that, but yeah, the storage, the increased storage. It's so minuscule, and you can already put. Not that you would spend the money, but you can go up to 2 terabytes of an SD card. I don't even know if that exists yet, but
yeah, I don't know. I know in normal SD, when I was first researching the Switch, you could there's an experimental 1T, and I know like a 1T SD card is available. I don't know if ever looking into it if a 1 or 2 micro SD is even a thing though, because it only takes the micro SDs.
I'm pretty sure there is a 1 terabyte.
There might be.
Micro SD.
I just haven't looked into it.
Yeah, but I think that's the max that you can get right now. I could be wrong, but yeah, and that would be like a ridiculous. Like you said, I have a 256 and it's not full. I've got everything.
It's like eventually you just get the 2T, which will be the max for this system. And it's like, okay, well, I don't have to have anything on any other SD card. I could probably put the whole Switch library on here. Because their games are so tiny. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I was astounded with the 3DS. I didn't remember that the maximum micro SD card you can put in there is 32 gigs.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you need.
All you need.
I mean, I went ahead, I got a 32, which cost me like $6 on Amazon, and downloaded everything that I could from the eShop. So.
All you need, unless you have like the 4 biggest games on the 3DS, which is like all.
I have Hyrule Warriors.
Yeah. Because like I told you, Smash Brothers is like 8 gigs.
Yeah.
Default. That's before the DLC and everything.
How do you translate on like the 3DS? It shows it to you in blocks.
Yes, but you can look up the file size. Yeah, I hear it knocking.
Hold on one.
Yeah, but I'll continue talking. Yeah, they do everything in blocks for people listening, but you can't actually look up what the real file size is for the 3DS. And the ROMs are actually the easiest way to find this, but you can find the file size of literally every single 3DS game.
Yeah, I'll have to look because I remember. So I downloaded Hyrule Warriors. That was the biggest one that I had. Let's see. Hyrule Warriors Legends is what it was called. And that one is 2 gigs.
1.97 gigs.
Yeah, so that was 16,000 blocks.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest one I own.
I own Super Smash Brothers, physically, thankfully. And games could have gotten bigger, Because if I recall, the 3DS cartridge can hold up to 10 gigs of memory. It's just nothing really used it.
This says Super Smash Bros. For 3DS is 2.1 gigs.
I'm talking about by the end of its life cycle. It had gotten to the point that you, with all of the updates and everything like that, you could not have it on a 3DS default without external memory. I actually had this problem that I had to get an SD card. The whole reason I had to get a higher SD card than the base one that came with it was because of Smash Brothers.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, I think the base one that comes with it is what, 2 gigs or 4?
Yeah. It's you just get a 2 gig. That's it. All they give you is a 2 gig SD card, and you have to go get a bigger one. And even that with the Smash Brothers, right? 2 point whatever, you can't put it on the base one. But I had it physically. I was cared more about the DLC data and all that, and there was enough DLC that I could not have it on the base card, and I also had other games I wanted on my system as well, and I had to go out and get a bigger memory card.
Yep.
Fucking stupid.
Well, I can confirm Metroid Dread Special Edition is supposed to be $90. Also not available on GameStop.
Yeah.
So the hunt continues.
So one of the things I like to complain about a lot on here is something that's like a very personal problem for me, something that I'm just offended by its very existence, and that is the infantilization of the audience of video games, right? I've gone off about this many times. Psychonauts.
I think I know what you're talking
number
about.
2. Game I've been looking forward to for, over a decade now? Right? Psychonauts 2 has invincibility mode to ensure that all ages and all possible needs can complete the game. And I'm thinking, how fucking difficult is this game that you need an invincibility mode? Babies could beat the original Psychonauts. I'm exaggerating, but elementary school students have beaten the original Psychonauts. Why the hell do you need an invincibility mode? I know it's for journalists. That's the real reason. It's so journalists can finish and review your game.
Yeah. Pretty much.
It's shit like this. Shit like this actually just actively pisses me off. Not much brings me to anger, and this stuff does.
You know what they should do? What game was it that would actually make fun of you? Was it Doom? One of the original games that would make fun of you if you played in baby mode?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
I think Doom did. I know Quake for sure did. One of my favorite ones too, that I bring up a lot, and it's such a meme, but everybody loves it. It's iconic because of that. Is Devil May Cry. 3 specifically, but in Devil May Cry, you start off on normal difficulty or on hard. You can pick either of those two. They don't let you pick easy right away. And then the very first time you die, to insult you, a pop-up on the screen goes that easy mode has now been unlocked. This is what games used to be. They didn't even ever expect you to play on easy mode. It was an insult. Yeah, Doom 2, and Wolfenstein 3D, according to Flit. Basically just id. It was a common thing, because Quake did it as well. It just did that with their games. But yeah, it was it used to be an insult to play on the easy modes. Back when games were more niche. You didn't want to do it. And some games use the easy mode specifically as an insult. It wasn't just between gamers, it was the game companies as well. They understood the culture around it. And now everything's just you need to add an easy mode to every single game. I actually was getting pissed off because this pop-up would show up all the time. And in Final Fantasy 15, there's like, in easy mode, if Noctis is struggling, a mysterious helper may come onto the battlefield to give him a hand. It's like, why? Why is it even an option? Clearly, I was not going to pick easy mode, but why is it even an option?
Well, they should make it an option. They should call it games journalist mode, and they should, as Flip mentions, like your main character should appear in a baby bonnet with a pacifier. That way, if you ever watch video of someone playing it, you'll know they're in easy mode.
See, if I made a game,
like
and I would put like the easy mode or the games journalist mode or anything there, and when you go to hit start game, all it does is take you directly to the end credits, and then the game shuts off after that. And maybe you'll get like a little achievement that says game journalist or something like that, just to insult you, and then you can start the game back up and actually play it if you want to.
Yeah. Push the easy mode, just goes right to credits. Congratulations.
You finished the game. I won't let you skip the credits either. If you play in any other mode, there'll be an option to skip the credits, but in that one, no, you have to watch it.
Yeah, normalize shaming people for playing in easy mode.
Normalize shaming in video games in general, because that used to be a part of it. Games used to tell you if you sucked, and they need to. That's how you get better. Make it auto uninstall. Oh, so you'd have to reinstall the game for picking easy mode? That's a little harsh, but at the same time, you're kind of getting me aroused. I might be down for it.
Well, how much you want to bet that this game's going to be review bombed on Steam whenever it comes out in August, and then all those reviews will be deleted?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Double Fine, as far as I've been seeing, they still make okay games. I'm hoping that if you pick normal mode, it will be like playing the original Psychonauts. Like, I want to look forward to this game. Yeah. It's just every time I see something like that, even though I know it's not targeted at me. Clearly, anytime they add an easy mode, it's not targeted at me or people like me when it comes to games. But it just feels like it's insulting to the general audience. Because, I mean, these games aren't hard. They're not. A lot of these games I beat when I was much younger than I am today, and much less skilled. And I knew people who were way less skilled than me, even at that time, that ended up beating these games.
Yeah. I mean, I beat games in the NES era. I beat like every Mega Man game that came out.
And NES games,
hard as hell.
Some of them are stupidly easy, but a lot of them are harder than anything that you'd even play today that's intentionally designed to be hard, just because of how janky those old mechanics were and the limitations.
I mean, I eventually beat Kid Icarus at the age of 10.
Yeah.
So...
like, I don't get
and
it.
You know how hard the underworld is in that game.
Yeah, the hardest part of the game, and they start you off in the harder area.
I know. They start you in the hardest part.
And smooth sailing and clear skies from here on out.
Yeah. You know, what's funny is, like, games like The Legend of Zelda, like Skyward Sword's coming out on Friday. Can't wait.
Yeah.
The series is famous or infamous for having very, very low difficulty overall, but especially very easy bosses, right?
Yeah.
Like the patterns are fairly easy to figure out, and once you do, but they're really fun. I mean, I love them, and epic looking and fun little sequences.
With
like really easy.
Maybe the sole what's it called? Exclusion here, right? The exception to this is on the Game Boy, if you're playing the original Game Boy versions, because of the processing limitations of the Game Boy, sometimes there was like frame skipping and stuff in the middle of boss battles that made them harder than they needed to be.
You mean like in Link's Awakening?
Yes, there were a couple boss battles on the original version, which they did fix by
Yeah,
DX.
yeah.
But on the original version, where due to the processing power of the Game Boy and stuff and the way they made it, like if you needed to use the Rock's Feather to jump over the spinning spike wheel, but there'll be a frame skip and you'll jump at the wrong time and end up landing on the wheel, even though otherwise you would have. Like, there's certain things that made them more difficult than they were supposed to be. But then you go and play like the modern version of the game, it's like, oh man, this is so much easier than I remember.
Yeah. Yeah, but my point was going to be the original, like the first three, or the first two at least, Zeldas, and probably Link to the Past even, were very difficult. At least the first two were very, very difficult.
Link to the Past is easy. If you're patient. It's actually a very easy game. The first Zelda, I wouldn't say it's easy, but I wouldn't call it difficult. If you're patient, if you're methodical, you can get through that game. Zelda 2, on the other hand, anybody who wants to call that game difficult, I can fully endorse. I don't think it's hard, but I can endorse calling it a difficult game. Even if you're patient and methodical.
But again,
that game can punish you pretty hard.
Yeah, by today's standards, though, I mean, I keep seeing, I've seen plenty of streamers and stuff like try to play Zelda 1, and they have a real tough time of it.
Yeah, but
and I'm like,
streamers,
I literally
most of them have
beat
ADHD,
that game at the age of 9.
But most streamers have ADHD or something like that. That's why they make good streamers, because they're just always going off in different directions. That doesn't help that type of methodical game. But I agree, like Zelda games in general are easy. Is what it's saying. Maybe with 2. 2 is the real exception to it. But 2 is also, while there wasn't a pattern for Zelda games back then, after the pattern is accepted, it's kind of the black sheep of the bunch. It's a different game than the rest of them.
Yeah. But again, I beat it. It came out in 87, I think. So I beat it at the age of 10. So it is like, it's not that hard if you are methodical, like you said. Like
and everybody, like,
search
Breath of the
every
Wild
cranny.
Is actually one of the easiest Zelda games I've ever played out of the whole franchise. And that's another game, much like the original, if you are patient, if you are methodical, you can do anything in that game, and it's not a problem. And everybody was calling it the Dark Souls of Zelda. And in many ways, I kind of agreed, because in Dark Souls, if you are patient and methodical, that game series actually isn't that hard. It's a very high completion rate. But idiots tend to run face forward into danger and get themselves killed. And that's very much the same thing that happened in Breath of the Wild, where idiots who were impatient would just run and like, oh, there's a guardian here. And they would just do really stupid things and then call the game hard. It's like, well, if you weren't being so fucking stupid.
I will say Trial of the Sword on Master Mode is fucking hard. Like, I have yet to beat it. I've beaten the beginner level, but I have not beaten intermediate.
What are we talking about?
In Master.
I'm complaining about them adding all these fucking easy modes to games for fucking game journalists who honestly shouldn't be reviewing games if they're not even half decent at them. Specifically, Psychonauts 2 just added an invincibility mode, or they announced that there's an invincibility mode to make sure that people of all ages and all possible needs can complete the game. I don't think it's actually the age problem, unless you're specifically saying people between the age range of 25 and 40 who have journalist degrees, as also the condition of possible needs, require your aid.
Yeah, that specific demographic, very specific demographic of like 100 people.
Or have others play the games. I've thought about this too. Like, find somebody who has an actual degree in journalism or whatever, who's got a job, and like, hey, let's split it. You can undercut me. You can pay me small. I don't need your whole paycheck, but I'll ghostwrite for you and actually play the game and give you legitimate reviews. And you can publish it under your name. because you're like a chick and they want chicks writing these things. That's fine. Pay me. I'll ghostwrite. We can grift this thing together.
Yeah. Of course, they get paid like next to nothing anyway. They're already.
Well, it depends on where you work, right?
Living,
most of these games
squalor.
websites, they get paid almost nothing. If you're working for one of these like major publications, you actually probably get paid more a year than your average like teachers union public school teacher.
By major, you mean like Bloomberg and that kind of stuff? Like, because I'll see like Fortune or Forbes will have like a game review.
Yeah, some of those have actual game reviews. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those ones
like,
you get paid well.
Working for Yeah, but like IGN and Kotaku and all that, do they get paid decently? I guess it depends on who you are.
I don't know the Kotaku. I've known people who work at IGN, and yeah, you can actually sustain a living off of it. He's not there anymore, but Destin from Daily Destin, he used to be at Screw Attack. When he left, he went to IGN, and he was one of their commentators and journalists, and he was able to sustain his life and his like inner city apartment and stuff all on his own. Perfectly fine. Like, he got paid pretty well. So like, yeah, some of these major publications, you can get paid pretty well off of it. But if you're working at like, I don't know, maybe Games Radar or something, you're probably not getting paid shit.
I imagine Jason Schreier was making a decent living at Kotaku.
Yeah, probably.
Up until he quit last year. Or did he quit or was he fired? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, even going like a rung down, the people who worked at Destructoid were making quite a good living. Just saying, if you got a good position and you don't want like gamers flaming you, if you actually want to become popular, lie to them. I'll ghostwrite for you.
Yeah. Not ghost lighting.
Yeah. Gast lighting. Since the old word for ghost was gast. But yeah, fucking easy modes.
Yeah. I never got into Psychonauts, but yeah, I mean, I don't think Breath of the Wild doesn't have an easy mode. Its normal mode is easy enough, and I would hope that Breath of the Wild 2 doesn't end up with an easy mode.
I liked Super Mario Odyssey's kind of like game journalist mode. It actually did not change the difficulty of the game at all. All it did was basically give you arrows telling you where to go because they figured you were too stupid to actually like come to the conclusion on your own.
Yeah, what was Pikmin 3 in the Switch version, they added like arrows to certain scenes to show you where to go, and I'm like, why do I need this?
Yeah,
there's only one way to go. Like it's it's obvious.
But I do agree, a game review should look for certain things. I'm notoriously objective with my reviews, even to my own dismay, and a lot of people complain about it too, because I also review everything on a curve that's like a standard bell curve. So like, to me, the vast majority of games are like a 5, right? That's the average. That's right there in the middle. So if I give you above a 5 in a review out of 10, that actually is saying your game is good. And people hate that because I can explain exactly why I think it's a good game or why I don't think it's a good game because of the weight of different things. And I remember I was getting yelled at for saying that Breath of the Wild was a 7. I'm like, but that's a good score. Why are you guys complaining? It's just not a flawless game. I can point out a lot of flaws with this.
Yeah. Yeah, well, on like websites and stuff, game review websites, all the scores are inflated so that 7 is like an average.
9.8 out of 10, too much water. IGN.
That's right. Exactly.
And
careful, that girl will try to cancel you. Dillard, we are talking about Psychonauts.
Yeah.
too.
Like, Zelda did come up briefly as a side example, but we're talking about Psychonauts 2, which is a game I am looking forward to. This just bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we need easy modes and everything?
Yeah. You know, and people say, well, what does it bother you? You don't have to choose the easy mode. But it's like, but it was almost like the good kind of gatekeeping, you know?
Yeah.
Keep out people who are not gamers. Like, if you're not a gamer, then pick a different hobby. You don't have to be a gamer. It's not an insult to say, you're not a gamer, don't do this hobby. This is not your thing.
Yeah, like...
And if
you don't want...
And if you're not, then don't be a gaming journalist either.
Well, like, all forms of entertainment media, there is a community aspect of it. Like, you can enjoy anything by yourself. But you kind of want to enjoy things with other people. Likewise, you wouldn't want somebody who doesn't enjoy, like, Victorian romance to be showing up to your Jane Austen book club.
Mm-hmm. Or, like, if you've got a rock climbing wall at the gym, and you've got, okay, there's, like, the regular one, and then there's the difficult one where the rocks are farther apart, and then you've got one that's just a ramp that you walk up and down, you know, and you get to the top by just walking up the ramp. It's like, okay, and then you've got people saying, I'm a rock climber, I do rock climbing, and they just walk up the ramp. And it's like, no, you're not. Like, clearly you don't like it. Clearly you don't do this.
Yeah, and I also kind of agree with Sketchbook. It's not really gatekeeping, right? There's also, like, for personal enjoyment, right? And this is why you add harder difficulties and not the other way around. You start with the standard difficulty of play. You want a challenge that is satisfying, right? You want to actually overcome something. You want to feel like your time wasn't wasted. And if you're playing an easy game, you kind of are just wasting your time. You want something that is an appropriate level of challenge. And I can understand adding some easy modes in some games historically, because I figure it's like, okay, you want an appropriate challenge, and maybe this was too challenging for certain people. But even a lot of those easy modes introduced during, like, the early aughts would be too hard for what the standard is now. That's one of my big problems.
And basically, you're turning some video games, you're just basically turning them into movies.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's bringing down the base level of the gaming industry in general. Because then other companies look at that and they're like, well, that's all we got to do. We just have to make a movie.
Yeah.
Where you occasionally click a button.
That's what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually one of my critiques about your favorite Final Fantasy. It's basically a movie, and if I grade it on being a movie, it's not that good of a movie.
Dillard says, I did have to give Marsupial a lot of hints to leave my Jane Austen book club. He doesn't get things quickly. True. Yeah. I thought it was Jane Eyre. Something. What's my favorite Final Fantasy? 6 is my favorite.
Oh, no, I was actually being snide and saying 13.
Oh, yeah. That's my second. That's
I know 6 is your favorite. No, that's the best Final Fantasy. It's not even my favorite. But that's the problem. Is like, if a game is basically a movie, then I have to judge it as a movie. And most games that they try to make to basically be movies would suck if you're judging it as a movie, like The Last of Us, right? The Last of Us, I gave like an incredibly low score. I think the first one I gave like a 4, like below average. At least there were some gameplay elements. The second one, without even playing it, it's like, I can guess, I'm not going to give it an actual score because I'm never going to play it, but I can guess I'd probably give it a 2. Because I'd be judging it like it's a movie, and it is definitely a pretty bad movie.
You know, it's funny, for July 4th, because she likes to ruin holidays, Sophia Narwitz played The Last of Us 2.
Yeah.
And I jumped in there, and I asked her, I was like, because it was at the beginning, I was watching her play at the beginning, and I was like, there's no gameplay, this is just watching a movie. And she actually said, no, there's some gameplay later on. It's like, there's a bit of an intro. but then there's some gameplay. So I'm like, all right, I didn't stick around long enough to see, but apparently there's some gameplay. So I don't know. If you did play it, you'd probably give it I don't know, maybe a 4 or 3 or something.
Well, it's like
what I hear from
Stanley Parable
actual
is a
good
game
journalist.
A lot of people praise. The Stanley Parable, I gave a 4.5. I thought it had a very interesting premise to it and the way it executed things, but it is a walking narrative. That's all it is. It's a branching narrative, a choose-your-own adventure where you walk around. And it's like, that's interesting, but because one of the things you have to grade any game on is gameplay, I basically had to give it almost a 0 in regards of gameplay and judge it on just being a choose-your-own adventure. And as far as a choose-your-own adventure goes, it's a pretty shitty one. So it got a pretty low score, at least in my book.
To answer John Dillard's question, Sophia Norwitz is a games journalist and a general news journalist as well. She works for RT, or she does articles for RT, and
Russia
she has
Today.
And a YouTube and a Twitch channel. So she has an ongoing series on Twitch called Sophia Ruins, where she ruins various holidays and things by playing terrible games. Yeah. Actual good journalist.
And it's not like you can't do something movie-like while actually having mechanics and stuff. Like, what was the name of that game? Let me look up that. I'm forgetting it right now, but there was one that was right on my mind. Was it, Until Dawn. That's the game I'm thinking of. Until Dawn was basically a movie, right? It was kind of like those Telltale games, except with a lot more actual gameplay mechanics in it. It was kind of a choose-your-own adventure because you could figure out, you made decisions as to how the game would progress in much of like a visual novel way. But you actually had to play the game, and if you were bad at it, almost everybody could die. And you could save basically everyone except for one person had to die regardless. That you actually have to rate on more than just being like a movie. It's using the agency, which is the number one thing about a video game, is player agency. This is what makes it different than any other storytelling medium. And that one I gave a fairly good score. I'm like, okay, you're trying to make this like a movie. It does suffer in some ways because you're focusing on it. I think I gave that one close to a 7 too. But it has some good gameplay mechanics in it, so I can actually rate this like a game. That's the type of stuff you have to do. Right? You don't just want to like inject a movie. It's like, okay, well here you're gonna hit X, and that's it. Freaking QuickTime games. Who makes David Cage? All of David Cage's games are basically just QuickTime games. You walk from point A to point B. Here's a QuickTime sequence. Here's the movie.
Yeah.
Which, Until Dawn was barely better than that. It was mostly QuickTime, but there was a lot of different agency, decision access, and stuff like that. So I gave it slightly better than a David Cage game score. But most of his are just glorified movies. It's all they are. Like Beyond Two Souls and stuff like that. It's just...
And if you're going to do a game like that, at least add some puzzles like Myst or Riven, where it's just... It's a slideshow basically that you're watching, and with QuickTime elements, but there's puzzles on every screen where you got to figure stuff out. So, I don't understand the things like the walking simulators, and it's like,
I don't either.
Is there anything? You pick up stuff. Occasionally, there's an enemy, but I don't understand these games.
Yeah, because a lot
they're
of
not games.
They're reminiscent of point-and-click adventures, but they're missing the puzzling aspect of point-and-click adventures, right? Like, to some degree, you could say that Myst is a walking simulator, but there's a hell of a lot more to do in it than any walking simulator.
Yeah. And I watched someone play Metal Gear Solid 2 the other day.
Yeah.
And
I was in there
that's
for a
also
little
a
bit.
Kojima. Yeah. That's also a Kojima game, right? Like
Yeah,
Death
Metal Gear.
Stranding.
He did the whole Metal Gear franchise before he went off to Death Stranding.
Yeah. But that one's like, it's got stealth elements, there's puzzles.
Well, he's known for that too, because Kojima also did work on the Silent Hill franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know what he was doing with Death Stranding, but it looks wholly uninteresting to me.
Yeah, well, there's a director's cut coming out, and one of the jokes that I keep throwing around and I keep hearing is like, but wait, Kojima had complete control of it. He is the director. What is the director's cut? Isn't that the base game? Whatever he cut from it was what the director cut.
Yeah, director's cut doesn't mean what it used to mean.
Yeah.
It's just like, like I've been playing Shantae. Was it? I think
Risky's Revenge is the director's cut.
Risky's Revenge director's cut, and it was like, that's not a direct. It's just they just had remastered animations, basically.
Yeah.
Or they just had updated animations.
Like when they put DX on a Link's Awakening, right? There were actually things that were cut from the game because at the time they thought they had to conserve memory. So when they were able to compress the game better onto the next port of it, still the same system. It was just like a Game Boy Color availability. They had slightly more memory in the Game Boy Color cartridges too. They were able to put in the things they had to cut from the game. That's actually a director's cut.
Yeah. Nowadays, director's cut just means, we want to release the game and add some new stuff that may have been cut, but probably are just new.
Yeah.
We just came up with new stuff.
Call it the definitive edition. I'm fine with that. But the Death Stranding director's cut is not a director's cut. Kojima had last say on literally everything with that game. The original version is the director's cut. It's not like he's at Konami and the publisher was like, no, you can't do that. Right? Like, if somehow he went back to Konami and they put out Snake Eater again, right? And in this version of Metal Gear Solid 3, instead of having the cheat where you can fast forward the time or whatever, you actually did have to spend 2 weeks of game time actually fighting the end. That would be a director's cut. It would be shitty. There's a good reason why Konami told you not to do it. But that was something that was cut or fixed from the game from the publisher's end, and now the director has the control to do what he wanted to do all along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Sketchbook's onto something. Maybe director's cut means the director needs a bigger cut.
Yeah.
So, a bigger cut of the money. So they're going to re-release the game with a little bit of extra stuff.
And I'll tell you one thing. Under control from a publisher or editor, Kojima can actually make really good games. I would not want the Kojima cut of any Metal Gear game at all.
Uh-oh.
No, we're fine.
Okay.
I think it might be your cut a couple times earlier.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, I would not want the Kojima cut of like any game that he's worked on with Konami. Maybe a couple of his things might have been cool to add in as like side stuff, but there's like a really good reason why most of the stuff that he wanted to put in games were cut. Some people need editors, as we know from looking at the current comic book industry, where editors aren't even present. They get their credits on things, but they're not doing an editing job.
Which would you rather? I don't understand what the. I mean, if it's the same game, would you rather buy it if it was called such and such director's cut or such and such deluxe edition?
Yeah, deluxe or definitive edition. It depends, right? If I actually know, right? If it's the same game and it's not actually a director's cut, I would rather have them put like deluxe or definitive edition on there. If it is a difference, like this is what the director of the game wanted, sure. I would actually rather than put the word director's cut on there. I want them to be honest about what the product is.
Yeah.
And I'd be more likely to buy it.
They're basically just using those terms interchangeably without any thought. Comics Gate desperately seeking editor. Yeah. Why don't they have comic book easy modes where, you know, they only use single syllable words or no writing at all, and just
most comic book writers aren't actual writers.
Yeah, exactly.
You already see a lot of like at most double syllable words.
Yeah.
To keep it easy instead of saying like duosyllabolic or monosyllabolic, and it's like you can't use the word monosyllabolic because it's already a multi-syllable word. I don't know what it means.
Right. Or like, it's like, you know, having a movie in easy mode where, you know, like occasionally the characters turn to the audience and explain what's going on. Like, okay, I realized that scene was really complicated. Let me explain. Yeah. This guy's with him, and he's actually fooling you. And so, yeah.
You know, a director's cut could actually do the opposite too, because Sketchbook brings up the Mass Effect Legacy. Sometimes things are there that actually only make the experience worse, and a good director that didn't want something in there, because sometimes you do have to please the publisher, could actually cut something and improve the experience in the game. I'd be okay with that too. If I want an actual director's cut of something, I want either a manual with it that explains it, or in the game some type of option where you can actually see the director's thoughts, like a director's commentary on why they made the changes that they did, or why the changes were originally made, like what the production, the publishers wanted from the game. It's like, I wanted to do this, but they didn't let me, and this is why I put it back in the game, or this is why I cut this from this version of the game. I actually want to see like their thought process. To me, that's what makes a director's cut. Like when you get a director's cut of a movie on DVD and then there's the bonus option of the director's commentary, like I want to know what's going through their head.
Yeah. Sketchbook says it's like having a sport in easy mode. Yeah, I mean, I guess with a sport, like if you're just playing it with your friends or something, like if you want to say, you're playing a pickup basketball game, you could say, let's not keep score. But I mean, your friends
there are certain sports
are going to
that
make
already
fun.
have it in easy mode. You've got flag football. Right? There's no tackling. There's no very low physical effort. You could just jog past people if you're just a little swift, they miss the flag. There's football in easy mode.
Yeah. I guess.
And sometimes you do that because, you know, it's a family game at Thanksgiving and you want like your girl cousins to play too. So you're like, no, we're not going to tackle each other's flag. Everybody can play.
Speaking of director's cuts, did you ever see the Donner cut of what was it? Superman 2, I guess? Is that the one?
I don't think I've ever seen. I've heard of it. I don't think I've ever seen it.
It was better.
I'm sure it is. He's a good director, though, so.
It was longer. Oh, there we go. Got unfocused for a second. Yeah, he recently passed away, sadly.
Yeah, I remember that.
But I do think the Donner cut of Superman 2 was decent. I don't remember exactly, but I feel like he may have gotten rid of the scene where he ripped the cellophane off of his outfit and like wrapped an enemy up in it briefly for like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Remember that scene?
Yes. Well, you know, one of the reasons they do this, because this was pre-Crisis of the Infinite Earths. This is pre the reset. And at this point in time in Superman's career, he had gotten so strong that he could basically just make up powers on the fly. So they kind of had the license to do literally anything they wanted with Superman in that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. In retrospect, sometimes it is better when a director cuts things that are silly.
Yeah. But anyway, that's the show. So, thank you all for joining us on the Vomitorium. If you like the show, please share with somebody else who might enjoy it. And if you really like the show, consider giving a donation to streamlabs.com/vomitoriumlive. And we will see you all in the next episode.
Bye-bye.
What